My sister and I are currently road tripping the South Island of New Zealand. After a couple of great days in what can only be described as one of the world's most beautiful stretches of land, we're leaving Fiordland in Queenstown behind and headed to the South Island's west coast. More rough, rugged, but no less beautiful, we make our way up north all the way to Nelson, before heading back down again through Blenheim, where we're enjoying our last days of the trip with a few glasses of world-class wine. So let's dive right in and explore more of New Zealand's south. So we're on the way to the west coast now, and after this incredible drive along Lake Hawea and the other lake that I forgot its name, that is next to Wanaka, or where Wanaka is located, we got to Blue Pools, and I thought, oh nice, Blue Pools, never seen it, because when I drove here the very first time, I can't really remember, I think we didn't do it for some reason. Last year it was super rainy, so I passed. And then this year I thought, oh nice, weather's beautiful, it's Blue Pool time, finally, third time lucky. Turns out third time unlucky, because the swing bridge to the Blue Pools, they're closed because they're too old and they need to be replaced, and you can't unfortunately reach the Blue Pools without getting to the swing bridge. So even this time now, it's no Blue Pools for me, means I gotta get back a fourth time at some point. Anyways, we still came to pretty much the car park here, and we're just going to do this tiny little forest walk along the forest and have a look at this beautiful river, because it is just nice. Like this stream, this like light blue color, so clean, just like all the others as well, but it's just so nice. So yeah, we're just going to have a little walk, go probably to the swing bridge, and then see if there's anything to see there or not. Because we've got an entire day to get to Franz Josef, so why not do some things along the way? Although not all of the Blue Pools were accessible, we were at least able to reach the first one with a small river crossing. And the Blue Pools, they truly live up to their name, but what you can't see is how crazy cold the water here actually is. To stop here at Pleasant Flat, and indeed it's pretty pleasant. In fact, I think this is New Zealand's South Island in a nutshell. So what you get is this blue kind of super crispy clean water, then you have these like kind of banks here, the gravel banks, you have those yellow brownish grass flats, and then you have the mountains, and then even a snow-capped mountain over there. Utter beauty. It's like beauty in one picture, and it's, I don't know, they could do a Lord of the Rings scene here. They wouldn't even need to Photoshop it, put it straight into the cinema. It's just great. The way over to the west coast is literally filled with waterfalls and forest walks. If you have time, you can easily spend an entire day on the road before even getting to Franz Josef. Alright, good morning from the west coast. From Franz Josef, we got here yesterday. I think I've never seen it with sunshine even. Always only covered with clouds and rain and stuff. And today it's time for another crusher. We're going to do Alex Knob Track, which is about a 17 kilometers hike, 8 hours return. It's set to be quite hard, at times a bit challenging, but this is what we're up for. My sister's hugely excited already, but since we gave our legs a break yesterday, we should be all fine for today's hike, and we've got the entirety of this day to do it. And there's one thing about Alex Knob: if you have good weather, it seems that once you're at the top, this is the best way to see the glacier from the top if you don't want to go on the helicopter flight. The key to Alex Knob and its best views along the way and from the top is starting early. Something that I'm propagating here now, while we ourselves actually started a little too late. First proper view on the glacier. Right over there, there's Franz Josef Glacier, or at least what's left of it, which is sadly not too much. Clouds are coming in. We're probably halfway up or so. I'll just stay here and look at it as long as I can, but it's just incredible. Yeah, and at some point, the end of the glacier was down here. And that was when it was the only glacier in the world, I think, that ended in rainforest, which is quite unique and quite cool, because usually you don't really have glaciers and rainforests all together, maybe in Patagonia as well. But I think I read it up somewhere that once this and Fox Glacier We're the only two ones ending in a rainforest, which is so cool. So we're not quite there yet, but we made it to the part where there's no real trees anymore. It's just grass and little bushes, and as you can see nothing. So this is what was to be expected. However, I hoped it would come in just a little later, because yeah, as you can see, there's really not much. Like, you can probably see in any direction 50 meters ish, and then that's pretty much it. So this, I guess, is the last part, pretty much to the summit. And I gotta say, the last part was tricky. It was quite steep. It was quite tough, like kind of big steps. So you had to really use your legs. And then also, I feel like it's tricky on your mind rather than on your body. In that you always think that, oh, now I'm there, and then there's another bend and another corner and all these things. And then sometimes you can just peek through the fog, and then you see that it goes further up and stuff, and you'd be like, oh, when is it done? Anyways, we're walking through this very, very kind of unnatural looking or like interesting, spooky looking landscape. Follow this path and then up to the top. Let's go.
We couldn't see a thing once we got closer to the top. However, this didn't mean that this wasn't an enjoyable walk. In hindsight, we should have started earlier. However, walking along the ridgeline through the mist had something eerie and somewhat beautiful to it.
So after hanging out at the summit of Alexnop for a little bit, we're making our way down because the views were just too beautiful. We couldn't handle it anymore. And yeah, making our way down and see how long we actually take to get down. So it's been something like 3.5 hours to get up. Overall, pretty enjoyable hike. At first I thought, oh, it's going to be a bit boring, but it got much more interesting. And yeah, if it wasn't for the lack of the views at the top, which are to be expected if you start as late as we did. So I guess it's pretty much just the consequence of our kind of getting up somewhat late for this hike and having a chill breakfast still and stuff like that. And this is what you have to expect. If we had started at, I don't know, 6 or so, would have looked probably very different. But it's also like it is now. This is also beautiful. We are on air, and we are leaving Franz Josef, and it seems at the right time because it's very cloudy already. Even though it's early, it's like what, 9:50, well, early-ish. But yeah, Franz Josef seems to be done with the good weather, and then we're done with Franz Josef. And on we go along the west coast, and next spot is Hokitika Gorge, which is somewhat of a touristy spot, maybe not as touristy as some of the others. Supposed to have the most incredible blue turquoise water, just like the blue pools, and also just like the blue pools, one of the swing bridges there is closed. Apparently you can still do a walk and you can still see a good bit of the Hokitika Gorge and of all that water. And this is what we're trying out, and it's about a 2 hours and 10 minutes drive to get to Hokitika Gorge. It's going to be a bit windy, a bit curvy, as most of the roads here on the west coast are. And let's just hope the weather is much better there. So see you in just a bit, I guess, when we arrive at the Hokitika Gorge.
We made our way further up the west coast, and oh boy, there's something so special about this part of New Zealand. It's so rugged, it feels incredibly remote, and thus conveys this certain beauty that is so hard to describe. We stopped at Hokitika Gorge, famous for its crazy emerald blue water, which we both hadn't seen before actually.
So, that was Hokitika Gorge. It was really nice. I didn't know you could swim in there because I didn't bother reading the sign, otherwise I probably would have taken my swimwear with me, but very impressive.
We found another hidden gem on our way up north, which was the Punakaiki cavern. This hidden cave system that tourists can stroll around for free once they are fed up with the overcrowded pancake rocks next door.
Who says there's always only rain at the west coast, eh? Look around this, it's just perfect. It stuns me every time how from like the glacier lands and like Franz Josef and Fox Glacier and stuff like that, you drive like an hour, let's make it 2, and then you see this and it looks so different, and it's literally only what, 150 kilometers, maybe 200 kilometers away from the glaciers. It's ridiculous.
Despite showing its best side when it came to sunshine, we had to leave the west coast eventually and set up camp in the Buller Gorge on our way to the east coast.
So we made it to Nelson. The drive over was super cloudy, it was rainy, and we were like, oh, Nelson's supposed to be one of the sunniest areas in all of New Zealand. And here it's overcast. It's at least not raining. Anyways, what we're going to do now, because the weather isn't that great, is we're going to do some indoor activity, which I much appreciate, because we're going to go to the Nelson Classic Car Museum. And I like cars. So a museum full of cars should well be up my street, and even my sister said she was going to do it because it's only open for a little more than 1 hour from now on, so she can bear with 1 hour watching cars. Well, I could probably do a whole lot more. I'm so excited. Let's go.
I want to say even non-car fans will love to visit the Nelson Car Museum. The attention to detail, the sheer number of props to put the cars into specific settings, all that made our visit more than worth it.
Alright, it's another day in New Zealand, and we're currently on our way to Takaka, to something that is usually supposed to be one of the sunniest areas in New Zealand, and yet it just looks like we're somewhere in Fjordland. It's very misty, we cannot really see anything, and we're driving along this mountain pass, and the first thing that we're going to do is having a look at the Raviti, I think it's Raviti or Rafiti cave, which is a free of charge cave. Apparently it has a lot of like stalactites in it and stuff. And we're off to the Rafiti cave. I think 2.2 kilometers return way to the cave. So it should take us about half an hour to get there. There was a couple of cars in a car park, so we're not the only ones. But I think this is one of the lesser known landmarks that you can do when you're here on your way to the Golden Bay. And yeah, the weather is not that great.
I'm not gonna lie, the walk up to Rafiti Cave was the muddiest and most slippery I've probably ever done. So much in fact that I had to put my cameras away as I was afraid they'd get all dirty. Once we made it up, the cave system itself is incredible. Also, its partly horizontally growing phytokarst stalactites are a super rare phenomenon which can only be seen in a very few caves in the world. Once we made our way down without falling, we stopped by the Labyrinth Rocks, another free hidden gem. A maze of rocks looking like they had been placed here on purpose to enchant and trap visitors for eternity.
Hard to imagine that this is not a human-made structure, but just nature who carved this in. It's pretty amazing.
We spent the rest of the day checking out the Lord of the Rings Ringmaker shop and one of Nelson's many nice beaches before heading south to Blenheim, where we had booked a bit of an attraction for the next day.
Right, good morning from Blenheim. Blenheim, not necessarily too touristy and also maybe not too beautiful, but it is New Zealand's wine capital. And because it is New Zealand's wine capital, of course, we're going on a wine tour. Also, Blenheim holds a special place in my heart because I worked here in a winery, did a harvest in 2013, I think. So we're gonna hop on our own bikes or bikes that we rented for the day, and we're just gonna tour around the different wine estates that they have here, try some really good wines and have a good day of fun, I guess. So let's go.
So there are two different stages for the method. The first is making a still wine.
one wine tasting here and then a gin tasting. So we're gonna go with wine and then gin after, and then maybe some lunch, which is probably a good idea by then. Yeah, there's the second set of wines now, and after that the gin tasting. And we'll see how we feel after that. And probably get some lunch in, huh? Yeah. Okay.
It's a favourite.
Yeah, it's amazing. But most of 95% of this south, the Whitehaven one, that goes to Canada and the US.
We're back at the bike rental, and that was a beautiful day. It's about 4 o'clock now, so we started something like 10:30 with the first tasting. We had about 4 or 5 tastings, mostly it was wine and then 1 gin tasting, and had lunch in between, and it was just a beautiful day. Definitely enjoyed it and would absolutely recommend it to anyone who likes wine and who's in the Blenheim area, so go here.
After a much-needed night of sleep in Blenheim, we headed back along the coast towards Christchurch, passing the famous Kaikoura seal colony. Besides selling our car, we also did a little more sightseeing in Christchurch, a city that we had started to really like. Visited the very well-curated Quake Museum to learn about Christchurch and its horrific earthquake in 2011, and of course did a trip with the historic tram.
To you along the way. In the meantime, take a look to your left here. The one with the spire coming up on our left was home to Christchurch Boys High for a time, and then the University of Canterbury.
And then, once again, it was time to say goodbye to New Zealand. This land that seems determined to overwhelm you with breathtaking landscapes at every opportunity. This land that is home to some of the warmest, kindest people I've ever met. This land that captivates you completely and never truly lets you go.